welcome to Scholar to Black's first segment of interviewing the experts for the 2021-2022 year. Today we are interviewing our budgeting expert, Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones, do you care to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Dee Jones, and I serve as VP Community and Economic Development for Hope Credit Union. I'm based in Greenville, Mississippi, and just happy to be here today.
I worked with the Hope Credit Union before in the summer. I did some presentations, so I'm really glad to be talking to someone who works for the Hope Credit Union again.
Hope's a fun place to work.
They really is. We're just going to jump into the questions. They're all budgeting focused, and hopefully you guys learn something. So, Ms. Jones, what is a budget to you?
So to me, a budget is a spending plan, and it's based on your income and expenses. I kind of like to think about it as a living document, and I say living because it's always good to evaluate your budget periodically. I look at mine at least once a month, sometimes more. And, individuals, businesses, government entities, pretty much anyone who has income and expenses, they typically use a budget. From controlling your spending to consistently saving and investing a portion of your income, a budget is a tool that'll help you stay on course and pursue long-term financial goals. And it'll also assist you with making better financial decisions, prepare for emergencies, and manage your debt.
I know that I have a budget now, now that I'm a grad student, but I didn't have a budget my freshman year of college. So how important would you say having a budget is for incoming college students?
Extremely important. I know college is a very exciting time. For most, you're finally away from home, you can do what you want, but with all of this newfound freedom comes a lot of responsibility. And that's where maintaining a budget comes in, because it'll help you understand where your money is going each month. When you know exactly what your income and expenses are, you're able to work toward bigger goals like paying off student debt, traveling. We know everybody likes to travel. For emergencies, which are inevitable, and other milestones like what happens when you graduate from college and you have to move, vehicle maintenance and repairs, or even, purchasing a new vehicle. So budgeting plays a role in all of that.
I would 100% agree. So would you say that someone should start budgeting before or after their first year? When should someone start budgeting?
I feel that budgeting should begin as soon as someone has income. So anytime you have income and expenses, I think it's a good time to budget, regardless of how much or how little. So in essence, it's really a good time to begin budgeting even before college. But for those who haven't started, today is a good day to begin. Without a budget, it's really easy to just spend beyond your means. You're so excited, you're eating out, you're taking trips with friends, you're shopping. Even that daily cup of coffee can add up pretty quickly. But if you have a budget and you adhere to that budget, it'll ensure that you manage your finances wisely and achieve goals that you've set for yourself. I like to think of it as a practice session that'll prepare you to be successful in your finances for the rest of your life.
I agree with that also, because I know a lot of people who strictly eat out as a college student, and that really takes up a lot of your budget. And if you don't have a budget, you're not seeing how much you spend on that. Same with trips and everything else. So I agree that you should start budgeting as soon as you can today if you don't have one.
Today is a good day.
Today is a good day. So with that, how personalized should someone's budget be? Because I know there's a lot of online mock budgets you can kind of follow. Should they take one of those? Should they try to make their own? What do you think?
I think you have to pick what's gonna work for you. It's a good idea to look at the various ones that they have online. I mean, But, just keeping in mind that everyone's budget may differ because everyone's income and expenses will differ. So like the budget you have in college, it'll most likely differ from the budget you'll use during the next phase of your life. For some, that may be moving to a new job. Another way to think of it is as a SMART goal. Make sure that it's specific, that it's measurable, that it's achievable, relevant, and that it's time bound. But ultimately, all budgets should just be a means of helping you manage your finances. You use it to calculate your net income, which is going to be different from your gross. So you'll know exactly how much money you're working with each month, and if you receive a regular paycheck, that's going to be pretty easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to list your monthly expenses, your housing, your food and utilities, vehicle expenses, your cell phone. Everyone has one. Some, like my son, who's 26 and still allowing me to pay for his cell phone bill. But, hey, so you get to exclude that from your budget because it's on mommy's. Community services, which I use my daughter, so it's not in my budget. Gym membership, travel, entertainment, and last but certainly not least, your savings. I think you should be mindful that some expenses are going to be fixed, whereas others, like utility payments, they're going to vary.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times college students may not have any utility payments, and that's a good thing. But if you're looking at your budget on a regular basis, like I say, monthly at a minimum, you're able to make adjustments as needed. But the big thing is, once you make a budget, commit to it. And I know this can be challenging, but it's not impossible.
Well, speaking of the commitment, I know some people don't want to start a budget because they think they're going to go over. So what happens if you go over on your budget?
Well, there are definitely going to be times that you may exceed your budget. And the consequence depends really on the nature of the overage. So if you realize that you spent more in entertainment category this month, but maybe you spent less in a different category, it may all balance out. And that's why having a written budget is so important. Personally, I keep a journal with a page dedicated to each month. I write down all of my expenses. I check them off as I pay for them. And I look at my checking account daily to make sure that my balance is correct. Now, this is also advised to ensure that you're aware of any activity in your checking account, but that's another. Like this morning, for instance, I paid bills on Friday, so I give it Monday or Tuesday. Everything is so fast now with electronic, means. But I realized that my balance was higher than it should be. And that I was looking at it and I was thinking, well, all of my expenses have cleared. And this is where my journal came in handy. So I pulled it out and I realized that my auto insurance payment, which is automatically drafted each month, hadn't cleared. So as you can see, having a written budget is invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on with this example. If I hadn't had a written budget and I assumed that everything had cleared, now I have extra money to spend, maybe I'll just take that impromptu trip.
Right.
Or go shopping with it. So now my auto payment does come through. It's presented to the bank. It could have possibly put my checking account into a negative status. I would have been assessed with an overdraft fee from my financial institution and possibly one from the insurance company. And to top it all off, I would still have to pay the insurance bill along with late fees. So, and then there's a chance that my insurance would have lapsed, or maybe they would have canceled my policy, right. All of which could have been prevented if I had just adhered to my budget.
Right. So if you have extra money, please don't just go spend it willy-nilly. You don't know if you actually
back
have
with your
that
budget.
money. Yeah, stick with your budget.
Absolutely.
So with all the things that you put on your budget, what is, you think, the most common thing that people leave out?
Automatic drafts.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like like some people may have their cell phones on automatic
Mhm.
draft, or um, well, in my case, insurance is pretty much the only automatic draft. And then I think too, as you're working your budget and you're growing with your budget, you learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. For me, it doesn't work for me to have a lot of automatic drafts.
Mhm.
Like I would not put my utility payments on an automatic draft. For one, they vary, so
Right.
because they vary, it would make it difficult for me to just kind of keep track of everything. Um, so one way I think is good to help you not omit things in your budget is to just keep track of everything, maybe for a set period of time, whether that be 3 months or 6 months. I think pretty much every bill or everything you do is going to flow back through between 3 and 6 months.
Well, I have a personal budgeting rule that I follow that Dr. Tu really wanted me to ask you about because he's never heard of it. Have you heard of the
Okay.
50-30-20 rule?
I will admit that I had not until you mentioned it to me. But I do know that, like other budgets, whether it be the envelope method or whatever, it may very well work for some. With the 50-30-20 rule, your paycheck is basically divided into 3 categories: your needs, wants, and your financial goals. So you have 50% of your net income set aside for essentials, your rent and other housing costs, groceries, gas, 20% for savings, which also includes retirement contributions, and 30% for everything else, clothing, restaurants, things like that. An example of someone that this rule wouldn't work for would be someone whose housing expense exceeds 50%
That is
of
true.
income. In which case they could even adjust it. Maybe for them it might be a 60-20-20 rule or something.
Right.
I'm making that up. But the point is that everyone's budget should fit their lifestyle.
So with that, should you include savings and your credit and your debt and all of that on your budget?
I do. I include my savings in my budget. And I think it's good to include your savings because, especially when you make it an automatic function, because it's helpful, it limits the temptation to spend instead of save. And it also provides for a rainy day fund for incidentals. As I mentioned, I work with a credit union and I bank with Hope as well. And we offer club accounts. And I feel like club accounts are just a great way to save for things like big purchases, vacations, things like that. And it's just an automatic feature when you have it automatically drafted from your regular checking account.
So I know a lot of people, they think budgeting is boring. So do you have any tips on how to make it fun or at least not seem so chore-like, I guess?
I think that the way you look at budgeting will make it fun. When you realize that budgeting, in essence, gives you control over your finances, it minimizes stress, that in itself produces fun. Because now, you're not filled with regret at the end of each month or when you have an overage that causes some consequences that may be detrimental to other things that you're trying to do. I think that the fun of it is aligned with the fact that it gives you control over your finances.
I would agree. And I also just like spending, or not spending, I like seeing what I spend on because sometimes I realize like, oh, I spend too much here and I can change my lifestyle with that and, put that money towards something else that I need.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
do you believe that practicing budgeting makes you more financially literate?
I do. I think that when one begins a lifestyle of budgeting, they begin to understand just how much their finances affect other areas of their lives. Um, as I said earlier, it's like when you start doing it in college, you're doing it, of course, quite often with a smaller amount of money. But, after the 3, 4, 5 years and you make that move to your permanent job, you'll have a lot more income to work with, but you'll also have a lot more expenses. So, that discipline that you use now will be invaluable later. And as you learn about the different things that your money encompasses, whether that be insurance, learning that, oh, my insurance rate can very well be impacted by my credit rating. So it's important that I maintain good credit. So I want to, make sure that I'm a good steward of the income that I have. Um, you know, my credit may also determine where I live, because whether I'm going to rent a place or whether I'm going to buy a place. So as you start making those adult decisions, you also will go ahead. You're more likely, I think, when you budget to go ahead and also learn more about financing and interest and credit and all of those things and the role that they play in your quality of life.
Well, Scarlet to Black's goal, I know, is just to make students on campus at least a little bit more financially literate. If they take away from this interview just to budget, that's a good win for us. I'm going to leave us with one more question. If you could have students take away one thing from this interview, what would you have it be?
It's really simple. Budget discipline will pay off in the short term and the long term, and it can save you money.
And today is a good day to start.
You did.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Jones. This has been a wonderful interview. I love talking about budgeting. It's my favorite topic that Scarlet to Black does. Maybe we'll see you a different day in a different expert category. I'm not sure yet, but thank you everyone for listening, and we hope you have a good time.